Hey there, Bare Knuckle News fans. Susan Cingari here in Miami with a true story of a courageous and inspiring fighter who was so injured during his last BKFC fight, most people thought he would never fight again or even live. But he's back. Hey there, BKFC fight fans. Susan Cingari here in Miami with Francesco Ricchi, who has a big fight coming up against Brian Maxwell at BKFC 18. How are you today, Francesco?
I'm great, Susan. How are you?
I'm good. So talk to me a little bit about what you've done differently to prepare for Maxwell, training-wise.
I don't really do anything to prepare for Maxwell specifically. I just, work on my flaws and what I did wrong my last fight, and I just try to improve where I can.
Can you take us through a typical training day, though?
Training day, I wake up at 6 in the morning, do some weights, strength and conditioning circuit, run, and then go to work, then go do a session up in Delray boxing and do some mitts, a little bit of sparring, depending what day it is, and then go back to work and then come down here at Kendall at nighttime, and then when I go home I do a circuit before I go to sleep as well and bike ride a couple miles.
Francesco, are you training with your OL for this camp as well?
So I didn't train with him too much, but we did spar a couple times, and he gave me some really good looks. My opponent's a southpaw, he's a southpaw, they're about the same build. Yoel obviously is athletically gifted compared to Maxwell, but yeah, I did some training with Yoel.
You have both the height and the reach advantage. How will you use that to your advantage to get the win?
We'll have to wait and see. I mean, I fight differently every fight. Depending on what my opponent gives me is what I take. I can go in there thinking that I have a plan to do this or a plan to do that, but realistically speaking, my instincts are going to take over, and then whatever he does, I'm just going to act based off of that.
Why does this have the ingredients of an exciting matchup?
Because I'm fighting. I mean, last time I fought, you saw I'd rather die than lose. I mean, I'd rather die a hero than live a coward, so I don't care if I die, and without a gun, or if you don't separate me from consciousness, you're not going to win the fight. I mean, last time, not too many people know, but I ended up in a coma after the last fight. I got this lovely scar from a tracheostomy because I got punched in the trachea in I think it was the first or second exchange in that fight, and I couldn't breathe for the remainder of the first round, and I still was able to, gain composure, recollect myself, pick myself up, drink some water in the corner, and get back to work in the second round and win the fight.
We'll be talking more about Francesco's injuries in just a minute, fight fans. In the Noah Cutter fight, you fought long and tall. Is that the game plan for Maxwell as well?
It wasn't really the game plan for Noah Cutter, but I got hurt, so there was a moment in time where I looked at him and I couldn't breathe, but I knew that if I stopped throwing punches, the referee would stop the fight. So I kept it long and tall because I was trying to keep him as far away as I could from my throat because I didn't want to get punched there again because that's where the pain obviously started. So that's really the reason why I was fighting long and tall, is I was trying to keep him as far away from me as I could. But realistically speaking, no. I mean, I fight, like I said, depending on what my opponent gives me is what I take. But I have no problem slugging it out in the pocket, and I have no problem fighting on the outside. So we're just going to have to wait and see and buy the pay-per-view and watch BKFC 18.
Taking a look at that fight with Noah Cutter, it looked to me like you had a lot of damage early on in the fight. How did you persevere through that?
I didn't want to take the ass kicking from my coach when I got home with a loss. Realistically speaking, man, I put too much time, too much effort into this, and I genuinely enjoy it. And the only feeling that I had when I was knocked down and when the shit was going on with my throat was, if I recover, this fucker's dead. I mean, I never thought about quitting. I never thought about shit, let me get out of here. No, I was trying to milk it as long as I could to try to regain composure, but the plan was always to make him pay for having done what he did in the first round. I never had any have mercy or I never had any thoughts in my head to try to make the fight stop, to try to make this pain go away, regardless of the fact whether I would have quit or not. Like, I still would have ended up in a coma. The injury was already done, so I might as well go home and take a W from it.
Speaking of Noah Cutter, before we talk a little bit more about the fight, we're going to talk about that right hand, because at the end of that, you came from behind and you closed it and got the W.
Yeah, it was in the second round when I started regaining composure and keeping him at bay with a nice stiff jab. I saw what shot would land, and as soon as I saw that he was starting to hesitate and he was starting to not commit to his punches, that's when I threw. It was 3-2, but with my with my left hand or my lead hand, I brought his hand down a little bit, and then I just came over the top and was able to land the shot that essentially opened his face up and finished the fight.
What was going through your mind, and what did your coach say to you at the end of the first round?
He was calling me a retard, which I agree with him 100%, because I was, fighting like dog shit. I was crossing my feet, keeping my hands down, not moving my head, not moving my feet, making very, very, very horrible technical mistakes that I could sit there and blame it on the throat shot, but it wasn't a throat shot. Realistically speaking, whatever you practice in training camp is what comes out, and I just had a bad training camp because of me. It was what I did wrong in that training camp. And, maybe just didn't train the way that I should have. But I've rectified those mistakes for this camp going forward, and you're not going to see that anymore. But I ended up having to rely on durability, grit, and heart, which thankfully I have. But yeah, in that fight, unfortunately, I couldn't be as skilled as I wanted to be.
So, Francesco, do you feel like Brian Maxwell is underestimating you then?
I couldn't give a shit what Brian Maxwell thinks or what he does or how he trains. I mean, at the end of the day, I had so many last-minute opponent changes that who knows if Maxwell's even going to be the one to show up. I think he will. I mean, he's never pulled out of a fight. But I couldn't care how he trains. I care about how I train. That's it. I mean, he may go in there and fight completely different because he trained a different camp. You have it happen all the time in pro boxing. I mean, Teofimo fought Lomachenko in a way that he's never fought anybody else before. He started jabbing, which he's not a jabber whatsoever, and he fought that fight completely different. And Lomachenko was flustered. I don't know if he's tried to study a game plan to try to counter Teofimo's attacks that he's studied from previous fights. Regardless of the fact, I couldn't care what my opponent does, man. I know what I need to train to do. Yeah, I mean, maybe the fact that he's a southpaw, but to be honest with you, it's going to have the same result.
What range will you look to start the fight at?
Whichever one he gives me. We'll see. We'll see. I mean, he's not going to dictate the pace, but if he wants to make the fight end early and come out hard, we'll make the fight end early and come out hard, and it'll be one of us falls, one of us rises.
Speaking of Noah Cutter, we did an interview with you, a Skype interview, before you fought Noah. And in that interview, you said this, and I quote you, "He is an object in the way that has to be moved." Since so much of the fight is mental, is that sort of your game plan with every opponent?
Yeah, but, I mean, the majority of the fight is mental in the sense that, like, you got to prepare yourself to get in there, but we're subcontractors at the end of the day. Dave Feldman's paying me a certain fee to remove a certain object, and that's the way that I look at it. If somebody pays you to mow your lawn and they go there and they mow the lawn half-assed, they might not call you the second time around. If I go out there and fight like a pussy, or even like fight as hard as I can but lose, I may not get that call again, or I may not be able to get a raise. But we're subcontracted by Bare Knuckle FC to beat the living dog shit out of each other, and that's what I do. I mean, I get in there and Brian Maxwell is literally just the next target on my list. He's just the next task. If I build a car at my shop and all of a sudden somebody comes to me and they tell me that they want this, that, they want a bigger turbo, bigger injectors, and they want to do a Kevlar paint job all over their car, like Kevlar paint job's an object, turbo is an object, injectors are an object, all these different things, they're all things that need to be completed. They're all tasks that have to be completed in order to get to the end result to get paid. And that's the exact same thing. I want to get paid. I want to get paid more. I want to fight bigger names. And in order to do that, I need to look more and more spectacular. I feel like I have something to prove in this fight, but I don't have shit on my shoulders. I couldn't care. I enjoy fighting. I'm literally looking forward to fighting almost as if it's a vacation. When people are sitting there and they're looking at, hey, we're going to go to Cancun, we're going to go to Belize, we're going to go to Tulum next week. I can't wait to leave work. That's the same exact way that I approach fighting. I can't wait to be in there and the referee's looking at me asking me if I'm ready. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm ready. Like this is what I enjoy doing. This is what I choose to do on my free time. So I love what I do for work, and I want to go in there. I want to prove to everybody that the last fight was really not me. And I'm not taking anything away from Noah. I'm not saying that, I'm not making an excuse for winning necessarily. I'm not saying that Noah looked as good as he did because I did wrong. No, that's not the fact whatsoever. I just know that I could have achieved the same result, and I could have looked a lot better doing it, Not because I want to be flashy, but just because there was no reason for me to risk a near-death experience. I mean, my blood oxygen saturation level was below 80% when I went to the hospital. They were telling my dad that I wasn't going to wake up. If I was going to wake up by the end of the week, then the chances of me waking up were 90%, or 10%. And it was slim to none that I wouldn't be a vegetable. So that kind of shit, putting that stress on my family, that's not what I'm in here for. So if I could have had the same exact result, for example, a third-round knockout against Noah Cutter, but I would have been able to fight a lot more strategically and not get punched in the throat, it would have been a lot better. People were like, oh, well, you got unlucky, you got punched in the throat. Fuck no, I didn't get unlucky. My dumb ass trained in the wrong way, and I had my chin up in the air, and I got cracked in the throat. That's what really happened. You can't sit there and blame them. You would sound like the prisoner that goes to jail and goes, oh, the system got me. It's not my fault. They were out to get me. I got pulled over. The cop fucking hated me. Whatever excuse you have, it's your fault. Like, you're in there. Everybody essentially is given the same chances, especially in this country.
Right, Francesco, speaking about that really devastating injury, how long did it take you to recover?
So I couldn't walk until the end of December. I remember it was almost the third week of December, like before I could actually like walk by myself, like unassisted, because I lost so much weight. I was 158 pounds when I left the hospital, and right now I'm over 200. So it was, it took me a little bit to get back up, for my muscles to kind of regenerate, because I was just on fluids for 3 weeks while I was under. So it took me a little bit, but literally the first week that I could walk, I came right to the gym and I started, trying to hit mitts, and Manolo was yelling at me to get off the mat, and, I was back in the gym right away. You know, I was definitely started training again in January, and then I started sparring right away, which is probably not smart because I wasn't supposed to, but thankfully I didn't get punched in the throat, so.
Did you ever think that while you were in that hospital that you might never fight again?
No, not really, and the reason why is the doctors obviously told me, hey, it's not a good idea to fight again because this, because that, but Nick Newell's fighting with one fucking arm. I mean, if that guy can do it, anybody can do it. And it's not, you know, his persistence is legendary. I mean, that guy's an inspiration regardless of the fact. I mean, regardless whether you like his fighting style, don't like his fighting style, but he's literally going in there and he's fucking up dudes that have no handicap, and he's got one arm. And he can do it. You know, I mean, he's a beast of a fighter. He's an amazing grappler, and if he can do it with one arm, I mean, why wouldn't I be able to do it with the injury that I've had? I know that if you really want to do it, at the end of the day, it's not that perceive, believe bullshit. I don't care about, like, you know, the motivational speeches that people throw out there. No, it's just realistically speaking, if you really want to do it, you do it. And I'm a stubborn bastard, so yeah, I'm going to try to get it done somehow.
And shout out to Nick Newell because you are amazing and inspirational. All right, Francesco, a few more questions now. I wanted to ask you, how are you feeling now? Because you look like you're in really good shape, so you're ready to go next week.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm at a point now where I just want the days to go by quicker just so we can get in the ring faster. I can't wait. I've been training hard. You know, like any training camp, you know, you have ups and downs. So I was sick a couple weeks ago. I had a bone infection, so I had to take some antibiotics, but lost a little bit of weight, but nothing major. I mean, I was able to get right back up to it and amp up the workload, and I was able to catch up and make up for lost time. So I feel good.
Without going into a lot of detail, I want our viewers to understand that what Francesco experienced is really an example of a true warrior. But this is not his first time he's faced health challenges. So we got to talk about that.
Yeah, I had Dave Feldman touched up on it a little bit at the last press conference for the BK14 event, but I did radiation treatments with stem cell implants for B-cell lymphoma, diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's, and that was in between my first bare knuckle fight and my second bare knuckle fight, and this didn't have an impact in the fight, you know, but I definitely was a lot lighter the second time that I fought than the first time. I was maybe 15, 16 pounds lighter when I walked in the cage, and I kind of started that training camp late also because of it, but it's not an excuse as to that fight. It's just another reason why, like, you just can't be held down. If you want to fight, you fight. You know, I mean, I had like not a break-in period, but I had a sit-out period, or however you want to call it, a recovery period of how long I was supposed to stay away without training, and I was right back in the gym. I was feeling weak. I was feeling lethargic. I was on pills that really suck, and they like took the taste out of your mouth. But regardless of the fact, I still trained through it all. I mean, people don't get it. You know, like a doctor can tell you, listen, you should be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that. But at the end of the day, for me, it's therapy. You know, like somebody goes to their psychiatrist, somebody does yoga, somebody, you know, hangs out with their dog, whatever the case may be. This is therapy. For me, when I have a day that's packed with BS at work, you know, and I'm dealing with insurance companies all day to try to get paid on customers' vehicles, and this is going wrong, that's going wrong, and whatever the hell, like whatever issue you may be going through, all of a sudden I just come here, I sweat it out, and I feel 10 times better when I get in the car. So.
All right, BKFC fight fans, you may notice that I'm sweating a little bit because down at Francesco's gym there is no AC, and they close the windows, and there is no air conditioning. So we are both sweating well, you know what that is, but Francesco doesn't look as sweaty as me. So you're training down here with no air conditioning, and you're also going to close the windows, right?
Oh, yeah. Every time that we train, or I mean, every time that we start training, whether it's sparring or even just, you know, tech, we close the windows up, and it gets extremely hot in here, you know. We have some dork that's fighting my brother Marcos Laredo on Friday that tried to say that he's fighting at elevation at 2,000 feet, and it's like, you have no fucking idea what it's like to train in the trenches, so. And here, I guarantee you it's a little bit harder. You know, try training inside of an oven.
I'm sweating. I really am, folks. Before we go today, is there anything else you'd like to add, Francesco?
No, not really. I mean, I just want to thank all my sponsors, and I just can't wait to put on a show. And I told you so.
Francesco, thank you so much for taking the time to interview with me. You're such an inspiration. All right, BKFC fight fans, we will be at BKFC 18 bringing you all the beautiful bloody action. Go ahead and hit the like button and share this video. And don't forget to get your tickets on the BKTV app. I'm Susan Cingari. And remember, no one beats us to the punch.